Turn that off. It's hot in here, but I'm in the greenhouse, and of course this is where I usually am when it's raining. And I know this is props, and this isn't quite the way it would be next spring, but it's that time of year when you need to start thinking about next year. And I know that this is the time of year that middle of August, or a month, you know, almost 2 months past summer solstice, and the days are starting to get shorter, quite a bit shorter here in Pennsylvania. And the further north you go, the more significant the shortness is, and I guess the further south you go, the less, because your days are more even throughout the year. And it's always a time of year where, well, for me, I start to feel a little bit sad. Things are coming to completion, and it soon mean that I'm going to be inside. And I get up in the morning, I go out, take care of the chickens, and of course water the things in the greenhouse, and then I go to the garden, and other than go in for a glass of water and maybe fix something to eat for my wife, and I'm in the garden until dark, and it's a way of life for me. My mom told me that this morning I talked to her, and we're talking about being born in the garden, and she said, well, you were only a little boy, and of course my mother was almost 40 when she had me, and I'm the oldest, and she said, I come out, and I was under 6 at the time, and she said, Mom, I said, Mom, give me the shovel. I can do that better than you can. And I started shoveling, and she's, you know, so you understand that I was in the garden from an early age, and gardening means a lot to me. That's where I'm the happiest. You know, I mean, I enjoy when the occasional company comes. Doesn't happen that often. Yeah, I had a friend here today, but stopped for a little bit, and I gave him probably a grocery. I gave him a grocery bag full of zucchini and yellow squash. Nobody comes here and leaves empty-handed, you know, because I always have abundance. But the thing I think I wanted to talk about today is that you need to start thinking now about next year and how you do things now. Now the thing is, if you have money, my show probably isn't for you, but maybe you want to watch, because the day may come when you don't have money. And I start my own trees. You go to the nursery, and a good fruit tree will cost you $100. Could even be more. Depends on what it is, you know, and what its characters are. If you don't have $100, you can get around that if you find a tree that you like, you know, and somebody has it, and you can get scion wood. And of course you can do what I'm going to talk about here, is because I'm going to feed these to the chickens. I've started over 100 chestnut trees, and of course you know, and you can do it, and you can do it for pennies or whatever. But there's some things you need to know, and you got to start preparing now. If you're going to start nut trees and you're young enough that, you know, because some nut trees will take, like I told you, those were grafted. I bought those 2 trees that were in the last video from Nolan River. They were quite expensive. They were somewhere around $50 a piece, $30, $40. And it takes, even for those, took them, the one took about 10 years, and about 10 years, and some can take up to 20 years until they're starting to bear. So if you're young, you know, you need to you know, figure some time. If you're older, well, there are trees like the chestnut tree, and if you know where there's a chestnut tree that has good chestnuts, this fall you need to collect them. And as you can see, I have bags of chestnuts left yet. After I started over 100 trees, I gave away 3 pickup truck loads of chestnut trees. And but how you store them is vitally important. Whether it's hickory nuts or walnuts, or if you look out there, you can see my Japanese heart nuts. Those were planted last year. You can see how tall they are. They're pretty nice trees. And those I took, and I when they come down, I took them off the husk, and I made little hills, and I got them into the soil immediately. Now I want to show you what happens when you don't get them in the soil immediately. These here, none of them sprouted. I got these over, they're huge, they taste pretty good. They were supposed to be fresh. Well, apparently they weren't fresh. I don't know if they were sprayed with something to keep them from sprouting. But I always take my chestnuts or my nut trees. I have plum seeds that do the same thing. Any seed that you have that's like an apple or a hickory nut or heart nut or butternut, walnut, whatever, chestnut, you want to take it and you want to get a paper towel. This here, you can see, this paper towel I wet last fall. I just slightly dampened it. And then the chestnuts, when I pick them up, this isn't wet, but it's damp. You put that in a grocery or a Ziploc bag, and you put them in here, and you put them in the bottom drawer of your refrigerator. And what happens is, they starting in February, starting in February, you'll see a little white tip, something like that, come out of the end of the nut. You can lay it in then, or if it bends, whichever way it bends is the downward direction, because that is the root. And there you can see a chestnut. This is the what will be the limb, and of course you can see all these are sprouted. And of course I wish they were fresher. I'm doing this now because it's the time of year you need to consider and how you store your seeds. If you put them in and they dry out, they will not grow. I have almost 100% success rate with chestnuts and my nut trees. I planted 3 in each hill out there, and almost every hill has 3 heart nuts come up. But they never dried out. They never got a chance to, for eating purposes, you want them to dry out. Then what I do is I'll take a container and I'll put potting soil in. Of course that has some dill seedlings in. And then you want to make sure that whichever end is pointing down, and to have the root end down. And when it first starts, it'll only have one little, see if I can find something here that kind of resembles that. One little piece coming out. Okay, that one I would plant sideways like that into the pot, because that's the root. It's coming down. Then I put it in there and I just lay the nut kind of on top, pull the ground up around it so that the root is down and just a little ground over top. And within a short order of time, you'll see here's 4 trees that were started this spring. Pull one out, see if I need to repot these, but I'm trying to find a home for them. So there's the nut. Okay, did that come off? Okay, the nut just came off. But these, there is a chestnut seedling looking for a home. And there's this one. I usually plant them in these containers, but I only had so many. They are yogurt containers. And as many of you know, I'm a minimalist. We don't have money. We have a little bit that my wife earns, but she doesn't make all that great of wages, and I have extenuated medical bills, and so we live minimally, like we did with my father. So that is how you start a nut tree, chestnut tree. And if you have somebody that has chestnuts, make sure you have a not wet, damp, water paper towels. Put it in the bottom bag, and as soon as you pick your chestnuts up, put them in and put them in the chill drawer. They don't need to freeze, just cool. And your vegetable drawer. And in no time, you'll see I have gallon bags full of sprouted chestnuts, which are going to become chicken food here now that this video is done. 15th of August, the end of July, beginning of August, it's also time that if you have some wild birds here, plant cherry trees for me. The cherry rootstocks don't like this ground, but there are cherry trees that grow around here, and the birds eat them and they fertilize them and deposit the seed, and the seeds come up, and it is time, and I will do a video in a day or so, or a couple days. It's end of July through part of the month of August, and I got to do it soon because it's what they call the bark needs to slip, and it's time to tea graft. Whether it's apples or plums or whatever, you can't cleft graft this time of year, but you can tea graft, bud graft, and you can start, if you have trees growing around, find somebody that has a tree you like. Just remember, it has to be, you know, walnut has to be grafted on walnut. You know, cherries should be grafted on cherries, and apples on apples, pears on pears. Just don't try grafting an apple on a pear or a cherry on it. I saw that on YouTube. The guy was grafting something onto something that wasn't to the same family. And as I said in the last video, it pains me to watch some of the stuff, and for people that don't know, and then to have to, especially if they're having to pay for their stuff, you know, it's a learning experience. You know, I do something, and it, you know, this stuff, the birds plant it. You know, I got walnuts coming up all over the place because I bring walnuts here. The squirrels like to get in my walnut bins, and they drop them off all over the place. And I got walnuts. There's no I have no black walnut trees on my property, and I don't want them because I can pick black walnuts up elsewhere. But anyway, it's time to consider getting ready for next year, collecting seeds, properly keeping them. You don't want them to dry out. They will not grow. You know, it's a waste of your time, and it's fun. I enjoy. I don't do it because I need chestnut trees. I do it because I like giving chestnut trees and stuff away, and it's a part of life for me. And I hope this helps. If you don't have money, you can help yourself free of charge, other than, you know, maybe buying a little bit of potting soil. And if you don't have potting soil, make yourself some compost, or compost. Get your compost pile, mix it with your soil. And as a little boy, my mom couldn't afford potting soil. I'm not so sure. I don't even know, when we were growing up, we didn't go to the store and stuff like that, other than, you know, than a little country store, and that didn't have that kind of thing. But she would. I can still smell in my mind my mom baking soil in the oven to kill the weeds and to kill anything in there that might consume her seeds, and that's what she used for potting soil. And of course, she didn't put compost with it, but knowing what I know now, that would have certainly helped. But she never had any problem starting plants. And you're a minimalist and you don't have money, you can still grow. Get yourself some soil out of your yard or garden. You know, I wouldn't bake it at the heat my mother baked it, because there's no need for that. You know, but to sterilize it, you know, do it for a while until it's 200 degrees through, and let it set for a while, and that should kill the weed seeds that you know, because weeds do come up in your stuff, even in the greenhouse here where you think it's protected, it's closed off. Occasionally I'll get a weed in my potting soil. Okay, hope this helps, and may the Lord bless. Bye.